This is Jonaki Martinez Estrella, who is facing murder charges in New York City. On the night of June 20th, 2018, Estrella, along with Manuel Rivera, Elvin Garcia, Jose Munez, and Antonio Santiago, brutally stabbed and killed 15-year-old Leandro Gusman Feliz. All five were part of a vicious Dominican gang called the Trinitarios. According to reports, Leandro had gone to meet a new friend a few blocks away from his apartment in the Bronx when four cars pulled up. Mistaking him for a rival gang member, the cars started chasing Leandro, eventually cornering him to a nearby bodega. CCTV footage from inside the shop shows a desperate Leandro seeking refuge and trying to hide behind a counter. But he was spotted by one of the gang members. A scuffle ensued and Leandro was dragged out of the bodega. What happened next shocked the entire city of New York. Armed with large knives and machetes, the five took turns brutally stabbing the teenager. Then fled away in getaway cars. After the attack, a severely injured Leandro managed to enter the shop but was sent away. Outside and fading fast, he gestured towards onlookers to call 911. Then he started running towards St. Barnabas Hospital, which was just 1 block away, before collapsing at the entrance. Passers-by desperately tried to save Leandro. However, 2 police officers just stood by watching the scene. They were later investigated for failing to help. Just 20 minutes later, Leandro passed away as a result of a fatal stab wound to his neck.
Leandro's story breaks my heart. A 15-year-old kid just trying to meet a friend, hunted down like prey over a gang's mistake. The bodega footage, his desperate run to the hospital, it's haunting. How do you process that kind of cruelty? Those officers who just watched? That's a betrayal of trust. This case screams for justice, for a community to protect its kids.
Police soon got hold of the CCTV footage and arrested the 5 suspects, charging them with first-degree murder.
Police have arrested the 5 suspects accused in the murder of this teenager in the Bronx.
At their trial, a 6th member of the Trinitarios gang, Kevin Alvarez, testified against the 5 murderers.
Kevin Alvarez's arrest, he's testifying in court against 5 of his fellow alleged Trinitarios gang members.
Alvarez, who had helped drag Leandro out of the bodega, identified the suspects in exchange for lesser time served. Popular music artist is killed in broad daylight. Like in the case of Jose Onfroy, a rapper popularly known as XXXTentacion, who was killed during a robbery in Florida. On June 18th, 2018, 20-year-old Onfroy was out shopping for a motorcycle with his step-uncle Leonard Kerr. Earlier that day, Onfroy withdrew about $50,000 from the bank to make his purchase. The young rapper was unaware he was being stalked by 4 men: Michael Boatwright, Trayvon Newsom, Dedrick Williams, and Robert Allen. Williams and Allen even followed Onfroy into a dealership to confirm that it was indeed the rapper. Then, as he left the shop, Onfroy's car was intercepted by a black SUV. Armed with guns and faces covered with a mask, Boatwright and Newsom stepped out of the SUV and robbed Onfroy at gunpoint. A scuffle ensued, and the two ended up fatally shooting the rapper before grabbing his bag of cash and fleeing. A passerby filmed the immediate aftermath of the attack and called 911. Another captured Onfroy's lifeless body in the driver's seat of his BMW. The tragic incident left the hip-hop industry in shock, with popular artists like Diplo and J. Cole paying tribute to the teenage sensation. Shortly afterwards, the four were arrested and charged with first-degree murder and armed robbery.
You are charged with 1 count of murder in the first degree.
However, Robert Allen took a plea deal in exchange for his testimony in the trial of the other 3, which began with the prosecution claiming that Onfroy's murder was pre-planned and efficient.
3561. So ask yourselves, that's more than enough time to formulate the premeditated intent and the design to kill someone and the killing.
Boatwright's lawyer suggested that Robert Allen, who was yet to testify against the 3, would lie in court.
Robert Allen is the only person that you will hear from that puts Michael Boatwright at RICO Motorsports on June 18th, 2018. But let me be very clear. If Robert Allen testifies in this case, he will lie.
Then, Williams' lawyer incredibly threw accusations at popular hip-hop artist Drake, arguing that the Grammy Award-winning rapper was to be blamed for Onfroy's death.
Before X died, he said, if anybody kills me, it's Drake. And do you think that for one moment, here today, days after the event, he's killed by 2 masked men, right? He came out on social media and said, guys, before he dies, if anybody kills me, it's Drake. Do you think in that time span that they went and they addressed him, they talked to him? No. Do you think sitting here today, years later, any detective has ever asked, Drake or anybody like that? No.
He also accused Robert Allen of getting paid by Drake.
How much money in 2018 did you receive from either Drake or one of Drake's associates?
I never met Drake before.
You never met Drake?
No.
Do you know who he is, though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Finally, Newsom's lawyer appeared last, stating that no physical evidence linked his client to the crime.
The evidence will not show that any firearm was ever recovered that could be matched or linked to Trey Bonders. The evidence will show no DNA whatsoever found on the body of Mr. Onfroy or on that car.
However, he was wrong. The prosecution presented a boatload of evidence in court, including CCTV footage from the crime scene. But it was 3 pieces of damning evidence that settled the case. First was the testimony of Onfroy's step-uncle Leonard Kerr, who fled the scene of the shooting. He described what actually happened that day.
All the guys, I tell you, all the guys went around to Jesse's side. The shot I want now come around to the door that I was, my door that I opened, and he go inside the car. And then I heard something like, hi. How much time I don't know, but I heard something like it's good.
Kerr also reenacted the moment Onfroy was shot.
You don't come out the effing car. And he was like with a gun. You don't come out the effing car. The shorter one was at Jesse's side.
The second crucial piece of evidence was pictures and videos captured the day of the shooting, showing the defendants posing and dancing with stolen money.
It shows Williams fanning $100 bills and surrounded by money. And this video taken at 12:35 a.m. This time Williams appears to be in a car, also fanning $100 bills, smiling and singing.
And finally, the testimony of Robert Allen ultimately sealed the deal.
As he grabbed the bag, shots are fired.
Who shoots the shots that are fired?
Michael Boatwright.
And who does he shoot?
Triple X.
Where does he shoot him from? What side of the car?
Driver.
Allen claimed that Newsom grabbed the bag of money. Boatwright shot.
XXXTentacion's murder feels so senseless. Young artist ambushed for a bag of cash, his life stolen in seconds. The evidence, those videos of the killers flaunting money, it's sickening. But the defense blaming Drake, it's a desperate distraction from the truth. This case shows how greed and violence spiral, leaving families shattered. Jossa deserved better. Let's honor his memory by calling out this injustice.
Homicide for killing Sharon and her unborn child. At his sentencing, Thomas was initially calm and silent, then suddenly all hell broke loose. As he was about to leave the courtroom, Thomas looked towards his family and made an attempt to move towards them. This prompted court deputies to tackle him to the ground, causing an outburst among those sitting in the gallery. The deputies managed to stand him up on his feet, but they couldn't control the teenager. At last, Thomas was restrained and escorted out of the courtroom. A sheriff took hold of the situation and calmed the irate family members down.
No good is going to be done by this courtroom being disrupted, okay? What's going to happen is we are going to allow the other people that were in this courtroom to leave, okay?
Eventually, the crowd started leaving. A deputy asked a guy named Chuck to wait, but Chuck was having none of it. He was promptly cuffed and taken into custody. The suspect in our next case made the whole courtroom emotional. This is Tariq Jackson, who's on trial for murder in Michigan. Jackson was 16 when he allegedly pulled out a gun and opened fire after a fight broke out between two Ypsilanti gangs in 2015. The bullet hit 20-year-old Keandre Duff in the head, instantly killing him. Jackson, now 18, was facing multiple charges, including open murder. He was set to go to trial, but eventually pled guilty to second-degree murder. Things got emotional at his sentencing when the victim's mother directly addressed Jackson.
Our whole world was turned upside down from that point.
She said his actions had changed her life forever.
You changed our lives forever. You took it upon yourself to end my son's life.
But shockingly, she forgave her son's killer and showed sympathy towards him, addressing him as a young man who had dreams.
But he forgives you. And I forgive you. I don't hate you. And then they sent me a picture of Mr. Jackson. And when I looked at him, I said, Lord Jesus, this is somebody's baby. This is a man who had, a young man who had dreams to be more than what he became. And if anything, Father God, in the name of Jesus.
She then asked for Jackson's mother and had some words of comfort for her.
Is Tariq's mother in here? Mom, here. Your son is still going to be a great man. All he has to do is give it to the Lord.
Then, in a heartfelt moment, the two mothers shared a hug in the courtroom. Jackson was also given a chance to address the court, where he apologized to the victim's family.
First off, I just want to say sorry to the family of the victim. I wish the situation would have played out like that. I never thought that my choices and decisions would affect so many people. No mother deserves to bury her son, and no mother deserves to see her son change.
He said he got involved in gang activities when he was young and took full responsibility for his crimes.
I was 16 at the time of the incident. I was young, angry, full of pride, caught in the streets, and in the middle of gangs and all type of other stuff. And I felt like, that was the best choice for me to make. But today I don't think that was the best choice. But I take the full responsibility for my actions and the regular face the consequences.
He also warned other gang members to learn from his mistakes and change their ways.
The life that we was living, being in gangs and all that other stuff, it ain't worth 16 years or death. Because eventually you can put in a situation and there's severe consequences that come with that.
Then he ended his statement with some words of encouragement for his family.
My family, I just want to say, don't cry, this isn't a funeral. My life is far from over. They can lock my body, but they can't lock my mind. It's going to be a long tunnel I have to walk through, but I always stay focused at the light at the end.
Ultimately, Jackson was...
I'm still reeling from Keandra's mother forgiving Tariq. That hug between the mothers. It's pure grace in the face of unimaginable pain. Tariq's apology felt real. He's a kid who made a terrible choice, now owning it. This moment reminds us, even in tragedy, there's room for healing. But it also begs the question, how do we stop kids from falling into gangs? That's the fight we need to have.
What happens when a helpless elderly woman is killed? Like in the case of David Moses, who's on trial for murder in California. Moses was 17 when he and two others reportedly entered the home of Dorothy Session with the intention of robbing the 81-year-old. When Dorothy resisted, Moses mercilessly beat the old woman to death.
Moses admitted to investigators in an interview that he struck the woman.
Police found Dorothy's body with multiple injuries, including a broken nose, missing teeth, cuts to her mouth, and black eyes. Moses was arrested and 2 years later convicted of first-degree murder. At his sentencing, Moses showed no remorse for his actions. He laughed and yawned throughout the proceeding, finding the whole situation boring.
With a chuckle, a laugh, and yawn after yawn, David Moses acted strangely at his sentencing this morning.
At one point, he even dozed off in his chair. Prosecutors said Moses seemed to enjoy the trial.
It gave me the impression that he thought this was a game. There was just no expression of remorse whatsoever for his actions.
While Moses was facing a lengthy time in prison, his attorney asked the judge for hope in the form of a possibility of parole.
To give him that hope for the next 25 years, that he may have an opportunity to be returned to society.
But the judge was having none of it, and ultimately sentenced Moses to life in prison without parole.
The judge sentenced Moses to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Mr. Moses received the punishment he deserved. Frankly put, he's just a dangerous individual, and there's only one place to put him, and that's in the penitentiary for the rest of his life.
Since Moses was sentenced as a juvenile, a change in law meant he became eligible to be resentenced as an adult. Even though there was a chance of changing his sentence from life in prison to 25 years to life in prison, the judge emphasized Moses's complete lack of rehabilitation since his conviction. Coupled that with the brutality of the attempt, Moses was twice sentenced to life for killing a helpless old lady. What happens when a killer vows to kill more in the courtroom? Like in the case of Luis Bracamontes, who's on trial for killing 2 police officers in California. As per reports, on October 24, 2014, Bracamontes went on a violent crime spree that resulted in the deaths of 2 sheriff's deputies in Northern California. It all started in the parking lot of a Motel 6 when Sacramento County Sheriff's Deputy Danny Oliver was fatally shot in the head as he was examining Bracamontes' vehicle. Bracamontes then stole a car and fled to Pacer County, where he shot 2 law enforcement officials, killing Detective Michael Davis Jr.
Bracamontes, an undocumented immigrant, is accused of murdering Sacramento County Sheriff's Deputy Danny Oliver and then Placer County Sheriff's Detective Mike Davis Jr. during a crime spree that also included carjacking and other shooting victims in October of 2014.
An extensive manhunt followed, and eventually, Bracamontes was taken into custody. Even though Bracamontes pleaded not guilty, his courtroom actions suggested otherwise.
Ladies and gentlemen, please step out of the hallway.
Bracamontes showed no remorse and wished he killed more, promising to do so once he broke out of prison.
allow me to do that until I'm step out of the hallway. I don't regret that. The only thing that I regret is that I was killed too. I wish I killed more of those motherfuckers. I will break up soon and I will kill more.
However, what he did next shocked everyone in the courtroom.
There was no need to put all the.
Be silent. Be silent.
Bracamontes gladly admitted to killing the two police officers. Even his own attorney didn't try to hide the fact.
Mr. Bracamontes is responsible for the deaths of both Deputy Danny Oliver and Detective Mike Davis.
Unsurprisingly, Bracamontes was found guilty of first-degree murder.
Did unlawfully and with malice aforethought commit murder in the first degree.
His reaction? A wry smile and an audible cheer.
We find the defendant guilty.
Bracamontes' behavior got even more unsettling as he blew kisses, smiled, and clapped towards the victim's family members sitting in the gallery. Then, in one final act of defiance, Bracamontes made a chilling threat while leaving the courtroom.
Luis Bracamontes' threats chilled me to the bone. Smiling, clapping, vowing to kill more. That's not just remorseless, it's evil. The families of those officers, Danny and Michael, deserve peace, not this nightmare. This case exposes the chaos of unchecked violence. How do we protect those who protect us? Bracamontes' defiance is a wake-up call to strengthen our justice system.
When you have to kill to move up the ranks within a criminal gang. Like in the case of Victor Rodas, who's facing murder charges in Virginia. According to reports, on March 27, 2017, Rodas and 4 other members of the international criminal gang MS-13 kidnapped and brutally killed Raymond Wood. Police found the mutilated body of the 17-year-old in the woods with multiple stab wounds, just 2 hours away from his home in Bedford County. Investigation revealed that Rodas set up a fake drug deal with Wood, after which the victim was abducted, strangled, and stabbed 29 times. Rodas was charged with first-degree murder, robbery, and kidnapping. At his trial, the prosecutor said Rodas killed Wood as part of an initiation ritual to move up in hierarchy within MS-13.
Because Raymond Wood had to die for several reasons. He had to die for MS-13. He had to die for the sailors. He had to die for his reputation and rank within that vile organization.
The defense argued that Rodas was merely the getaway driver that day and had nothing to do with the stabbings.
He had no idea what was going on. He was just told to get in a vehicle and go on a ride.
The trial hit an impasse, and it seemed Rodas would get away scot-free until police stumbled upon a crucial piece of evidence: the murder weapon. Lead investigator John Maddox testified that he saw a dragon's head shining light towards him at the murder scene.
So I decided instead of walking back through the high grass, I would walk straight through the woods to my car. I walked about 20 yards and looked down because it was a shimmer of light that hit just right, caught my attention. I looked down on the ground and saw a dragon's head, a metal dragon's head on top of the ground.
That dragon's head belonged to a knife that was used to kill Wood.
The dragon's head was pulled out of a box and shown to the jury this afternoon. Maddox told the prosecution the blade alone was over 9 inches.
With the discovery of new evidence, the jury eventually found Rodas guilty of all charges. Ultimately,
feel anything below my waist.
Like in the case of Noah Lep Hall, who's facing multiple charges, including murder in Colorado. In August 2021, Lep Hall and 4 others, all between the ages of 18 and 21, reportedly went on a crime spree that left the state of Colorado in shock. Lep Hall, Seth LaRode, Aiden Sides, Isaiah Freeman, and Samuel Fussell were all previously detained in a youth correctional facility in Golden, Colorado, where they met and allegedly planned the whole thing. The rampage started on August 15, 2021, when the 5 suspects broke into a business and heavily damaged the premises. They then brutally assaulted a man who was trying to take his ex-wife home following a cancer diagnosis. He later testified in court saying his ex-wife blamed herself till the day she died.
Even to the day she died at a hospice, she looked over during moments of clarity and apologized to me. I'm sorry. She blamed herself.
The more serious crimes came later, when a man was left for dead after being robbed and shot. Thomas Young, who was paralyzed from the waist down after the incident, spoke from his hospital bed.
I went from being, regular 30-year-old guy, athletic, riding a bike everywhere, and now I can't feel anything below my waist.
However, what happened next was even more shocking. 18-year-old Jewish student Shmuel Silverberg was leaving the Yeshiva Torres Chaim school in Denver when the five intercepted him, chased him inside, and gunned him down.
And most disturbing of all, the murder of an 18-year-old Jewish student who was chased down inside his yeshiva school before being shot repeatedly.
The rampage ended when 3 of the 5, including Lep Hall, were arrested. Police later apprehended the other 2.
2.5 months later, police would arrest him and some of his alleged accomplices at this home after a one-night crime spree.
4 of the 5 pleaded guilty to a variety of assault and burglary charges. Aiden Sides was sentenced to 41.5 years in prison, while Isaiah Freeman got 30 years. Samuel Fussell and Seth LaRode each received prison sentences of 21.5 years and 12 years, respectively. As for Lep Hall, he additionally pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and first-degree kidnapping, and happens when lawyers, witnesses, and even the judge go insane in the courtroom.
Stop. Just stop. I made my ruling.
Like in the case of Jeffrey Williams, a famous rapper who's facing racketeering charges in Georgia. Better known by his stage name Young Thug, Williams is accused of being a founding member of the criminal gang Young Slime Life, or YSL. Police said Williams and YSL had previous ties with the infamous Bloods gang. In May 2022, Williams was arrested and charged with gang-related offenses and violating Georgia's Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations, or RICO Act. However, this is not the first time Williams crossed paths with the law. He was previously arrested in 2017 on drug-related charges, as police found contraband, guns, and drug money in his car. Now in court for his RICO trial, prosecutors used Williams' own song lyrics to suggest that he was a part of a gang.
I never killed anybody, but I got something to do with that body.
He's not using gang colloquially. The evidence will show he's telling you they are a gang.
But the defense argued that the lyrics were taken out of context, and Williams made gangster songs only in his studio.
These are lyrics that rhyme. Those are taken out of context in that song, but they're lyrics. If we're going to criminalize lyrics, you will learn. We all should watch what we say. This is, you will learn, studio gangsters. They're in the studio. They are creating music for us to listen to.
They also said prosecutors misunderstood Williams' stage name, and that Thug actually stood for truly humble under God.
It was his pact that he could ever make it as a musical artist and help his family, himself, and as many others out of this endless cycle of hopelessness. He would be truly humble under God. That's what Thug means.
Prosecutors then introduced a picture that showed Williams making Bloods gang signs, but the defense had other ideas.
Prosecution is targeting, that's Jeffrey taking a selfie in the mirror, and he has his hand up, and the indictment that the prosecution had the grand jury return says he's holding up a blood sign, and that furthers this conspiracy.
They argued Williams only made a sign that denoted positivity.
Blood sign is like this, it looks like a B. That is a P. Jeffrey's fingers are down. It means any circumstance you're in, if you think positively about something, you can make it through. You're pushing positivity.
Williams' trial was also marred with interruptions, delays, and heated moments. This was mainly because Judge Ural Glanville, prosecutor Adrian Love, and defense attorney Brian Steele were not always on the same page. For example, in one instance, when the defense failed to follow his instructions, Judge Glanville had some stern words for them.
You know, you all don't listen to the court, and it's going to get you all in a lot of hot water. You need to listen to me when I tell you something, and don't rely upon your own understanding.
He also schooled defense attorney Brian Steele on how to properly handle evidence in court.
Underneath the passenger seat on the floorboard, is that right?
I need to teach you about handling weapons, please point the muzzle always downward, no matter if it's unloaded, okay?
I know it's unloaded, but yes, sir.
You make everybody nervous, okay? To include Mr. Kearns, who you're pointing it at. All right. All right.
I apologize.
While Judge Glanville handled that situation with levity, he lost his patience when prosecutors questioned him about a juror.
Your Honor, did juror number 39...
Yo, would you stay out of my business, Miss Love?
Oh, well.
Stay out of my business.
Judge,
look,
I'm sorry.
I've been doing this a long time. Yes, I have, yes.
In another instance, a court bailiff had to step in when attorneys from both sides got into a heated argument.
Your Honor, at some point, Your Honor,
I'm sorry, I'm talking,
Your Honor,
and I don't know why I am being interrupted. I will not stop.
Your Honor.
I was speaking.
Miss Love.
I'm sorry, I was speaking.
Both y'all can't talk at the same time.
I know, I
Honor,
was speaking, and I expect to be allowed to speak when I'm speaking.
Hey, both of you all need to just take it down a notch.
Safe to say, Judge Glanville was not impressed at all.
But you continually engage in this pattern of behavior, Miss Love. You don't want to accept my ruling.
Your Honor,
and I know you're being an advocate, but at some point, stop. Just stop. I made my ruling. Good, bad, or indifferent to you. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some.
I do accept that fact.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
The defense, too, had enough of the prosecutor's constant interruptions.
Your Honor, I apologize for interrupting the state earlier, but the state can talk the ears off a donkey. This continued filibustering has got to stop so that opposing counsel can speak. This continued going back whenever the state loses in this case has got to stop at some point, Your Honor. Thank you.
Then Judge Glanville seemed to get frustrated by the delay tactics used by the defense team.
When you keep delaying, okay, and that's what's happening to the court. You keep delaying and elongating and pushing out these particular our ability to present a seamless case in front of the jury. You can imagine my frustration because all these little delays just elongate out the whole.
Young Thug's trial is a circus, but it's no joke. Lyrics is evidence. That's a slippery slope. The courtroom chaos, drugs, Zoom hacks, yelling shows how messy justice can get. Jeffrey's future hangs in the balance, and it's a reminder. Fame doesn't shield you from the system's flaws. We need clarity, not drama, to find truth. Let's hope this case finds a fair path forward.